Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Megan. How are you? I'll,
Good. How are you?
I'll join by video in just a second. Oops.
No worries.
Uh, just getting one little text off. Hmm. Let's see. All right. Let me just skedaddle from the kitchen to a quiet place. The PC mouse. All right, Jay, I'm disappearing. No, thanks. I'm going to the living room. If you watch the news, keep the volume down, okay? So people can't hear you from the other room. Okay, let's see.
It's me, isn't it?
I am.
Hi, Megan. I think I'm in as Carlisle one. I'm
Oh, I
gonna,
can fix it.
oops, I can't hear you. I don't know why.
I'll fix your name.
That sounds like Chris.
Is that me or you?
Hey, Chris.
Turn up the volume.
Did I spell your name right? Yeah.
Oh, how did you do that? Oh, I was gonna log
I
out and log back in. I think I must have last time I used Zoom was logged in as Carlisle one. But that's fine. I
yeah,
can,
it's okay.
all right.
Yeah, I almost had to cancel the meeting today, so
Oh,
um not many commissioners available today.
You have the oldie moldies.
No. Um, but Melissa, if you're willing, you might have to fill in as chair. Someone's gonna have to.
So okay, all right, fine. So since I'm not one, if I screw up, you'll tell me.
Yes.
And everybody will forgive me, right?
Of course.
All right. Okay, I have wet hair. I'm disreputable looking, but here comes the video.
Yay.
some
Oh,
rule that you have to use video?
no, no,
No,
Chris.
okay.
Although it's always nice to see your smiling face.
I don't know about that.
Ah,
It's that
who
nice,
it?
good lighting.
Oh,
I
very
was
good
wearing
lighting.
a hat
And you're worried
outside.
about your hair too.
I got hat head.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll do this just to make you feel better.
Hmm. How's your summer been going?
Oh, I just got back from 10 days in Switzerland.
Oh, hiking?
So, yep,
Oh,
hiking through the Alps.
how wonderful.
I'll
God.
tell you, they have some kind of trails committee there in Switzerland.
Louise Hara spent some time on a vacation hiking in Switzerland. She loved it too. You guys should talk.
Hmm.
I'll bet you'd have fun chatting about
Oh,
that. We're going to go somewhere. We're going to Tanzania in September.
oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm taking my demented husband to Tanzania.
Oh,
I'm
jeez.
looking for some way to make sure he doesn't exit the tent and get eaten by a lion if I'm sleeping in the middle of the night. But otherwise, I think he'll enjoy it. It's a,
Other than being eaten by a lion, he should have a great time.
I think it'll be fine. Yeah, I think he'll enjoy it. 'Cause he loves animals, nature, he'll adventure. He'll He'll enjoy, he won't remember the trip 2 weeks later, but he'll enjoy the trip while he's there. But why not? You know, I figured like, if not now, when?
Hmm.
Mm, it'll be fun.
Where is everyone?
Well, it's 1 minute before, right? So
Oh.
we still have
You
time.
guys just clicked the link on the agenda, right? I did everything right?
I just clicked. I just went
Yes,
into the
you
town
did
website
everything
and
Okay.
clicked the
right.
link.
Okay, just making
It is
sure.
kind of late to have nobody.
Yeah, so I knew George and Navneet weren't coming, and
Nick
then
is going to be late.
last minute Brian said he wasn't coming.
Oh no.
So
So,
then I reached out to Nick and said, so you can only come later, or can you come at 7?" And he said, I can come at 7, but I won't be able to keep my camera on.
okay. And
So
then
I'm
we have
expecting
Sylvia. Do
yeah,
you
I'm
want me to text
expecting
her?
Sylvia, Tony,
Tony
you,
will be
and
here.
Nick.
Who else? Tony and
Sylvia, you, and Nick. That's it.
yeah.
So only 4.
Well, I would expect Tony to join because, you know, he's a new member and that would be bad for him to.
Yeah, I know, and
This
he's
year,
usually here. He's been here for a lot of meetings, like
it's been very
early.
good.
So
Uh, I'll text Sylvia.
that's why I'm like, did I mess up the link or something?
Sylvia
Nope,
was at
it was
the
perfect. Did excellent job.
Sylvia was at the our site visit today. Hmm.
All right. And I don't have Nick's cell number.
It's okay. I was just talking to Nick. He said he would be here,
Okay.
so we'll just wait a little bit.
All right. Um, and I don't know how to get in touch with Tony either. This would be the first time we lack a quorum to start a meeting that I've been on.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the reason why we only did one meeting in July. It's just because
Hmm?
it's so hard. Everyone's away. But
Yep.
yeah, I'm surprised. Sylvia's always here on time.
Well, let's see. No answer yet. Hmm. You guys feeling this rasp in the throat from the smoke?
Yeah, I've actually been sick for the last week.
Oh,
I think I'm fighting off a sinus infection. So the air quality has not helped.
no, it's awful. You want to stay indoors for a few hours now tonight. It's not as bad as they forecast. They thought it was going to go up to an AQI of like above 100, but
Wow.
and maybe it did, but it's not as bad as they said it was going to be. But
Yeah.
I think we've got a new wind coming in, which is good. But
Okay.
it's pretty bad. I was just visiting
Yeah.
my sister on the West Coast like a week and a half ago, and we had a wildfire fire out there. It was like at one of the bases, and but it was just a few hours that you had to stay inside. But still, I mean, it's really the it's kind of a sick color in the sky.
Yeah.
Mm.
I
It's very eerie.
landed
It's
at
really
Logan
weird.
last night in the middle of it,
Yeah.
and then
Yesterday morning, I was heading off to yoga, and the sun was this weird little orange ball in the sky coming through the smog. I mean, so I think it affects a lot of people. Yeah. Ugh. They said 800 different wildfires in Canada right now. That's a lot of wildfires.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. I haven't heard back from. Oh, she said, I'll try again. It says waiting for host to start meeting. Maybe she has the wrong link. Let me try texting her.
I can send her a new link.
Would you? Thanks.
Yes.
Send it to Nick too, just so it's right in front of his nose.
Okay. Done.
Did you do by email or?
Email. Yeah. To both of them.
Okay. Who's Carlisle 2?
I'm thinking, is that Christina? Or maybe someone from HisCom? Yeah, whose name is Carlisle too? I can rename you if you just let me know who you are.
You might not know unless they toggle their mute button.
Yeah.
Well, they're muted, but they can hear us.
Right.
Yeah, typically like the town accounts for Zoom are Carlisle 1, Carlisle 2. So I'm assuming it's someone associated with the town.
Right. So Zoom must keep you logged in under the last time you used it, huh?
Yeah, I think so, yep.
Okay. That you don't suppose that messed up the meeting link, is it? Because I was Carlisle 1.
No, I don't think so.
You guys were already on before I joined, right? You and Melissa?
Yeah, it looks like there's
Yes.
something wrong with the link or something.
It worked for me just fine. I clicked on the
On
one
the
in the
most
red line.
recent
Did it click one
agenda?
in the other? No, I clicked on the link and it got me right in.
Okay.
Chris, you too, right?
Yeah, I got right in, but I got in as Carlisle 1, which was a little
That's fine, yeah. Okay, let me send this. Yeah, I'm getting a few emails now.
She got it. It's asking me over and over for my email or phone number. All right, let me send her. Let
I
me
just,
let me text her the link that I used to get in. How's that?
okay.
I don't know
Oh,
how
we got,
that can be a problem. I really don't know. Oh,
if you can
Tony
hear
says
me,
I'm having problems logging in.
yeah, I just resent the Zoom, so
Oh, you did. Here it is. Is it the invite link that ends in 886325426664?
hey all. There was
so
an issue with the link, or at least the waiting room that I was originally in, and then the one Megan you sent me just now had me in I was sitting in a waiting room for a while, and then I noticed it was for a June meeting somehow.
Same thing
that's
with me.
interesting. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know how that happened.
I don't know. I used the red line link and this maybe it's different in the different.
You know what worked for me is in the on the agenda it says join Zoom meeting. There's a URL and then there's a meeting ID and some numbers on that.
Yeah, I clicked on that too.
Yeah, the last one worked. The URL did not. It brought me to the June meeting, but the meeting ID thing
Oh,
did work.
interesting.
It's exactly what I
Okay,
did. I had the same experience. So,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry about
I
that.
just clicked on the thing that had the meeting ID at the
Yeah,
top.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
maybe,
the one.
yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad
Sorry,
everybody's trying to
everyone.
get in. This is good news. Okay, so does everybody have the right URL now?
Is Bert actually Sylvia? Yes, it is.
I think so.
There we go.
Excellent. Now, who is Carlisle 2? You're muted, Carlisle 2.
You're muted, Bert. Sylvia.
I
Well,
will
since
try to
Sylvia-
change that.
Did
There
you
you
have
go.
to do anything? Oh, it's Ellen's finally on.
I do not know what was going on.
I don't
It's
either, but I'm
probably
so
my
glad you're
fault.
here.
I'm sorry about the complication.
Carlisle too, who are you?
It keeps asking for my email or phone number. Oh, there I go. There I am.
So this is Steve Tobin. I'm signed in as Carlisle too somehow. I
Oh,
have
good.
no idea how that happened.
All right.
Um,
I will change your name in a sec.
Okay, little glitch, but we're ready to go. Yay.
I've never had such trouble getting into a Zoom.
Well, all right, that's a temporary glitch. We're a quorum.
And yeah, we have a quorum and George isn't here. And we don't have a vice chair because Dan resigned. So I don't know. I kind of volunteered Melissa while we were waiting.
So
if
I'm
you're okay
fine.
with
I
that.
can serve as
Okay.
the ad hoc chair tonight with everybody's indulgence because I'm not a chair or vice chair and I've never done this before.
Thank you, Melissa and Megan, for volunteering.
All right. So, but the problem is I don't have the,
I can read the script if you want.
would you please?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Can you just call the meeting to order and then I'll read the
I'd like to
rest?
call this meeting to order at
Okay.
7:10 p.m.
And
on
then the
July
members
18. Members present
members present,
include
yep.
Nick Ognabene, Sylvia Willard, and our new member. Thank you, Tony Kazuski. Did I pronounce it right?
There's many
Wonderful.
pronunciations of my name. That's one of them. So
Okay.
I'm
We're so glad to
flexible.
have you, Tony.
Okay.
Okay. Welcome, everyone.
And you.
And me, Melissa Webster, sorry.
So for this meeting, the Conservation Commission is convening remotely by telephone or Zoom web conference as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Accordingly, please be aware that other participants may be able to hear you and anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All participants should keep their phones or microphones muted unless recognized by the chair. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. And that's that.
Our first agenda item is welcoming our new commissioner, Tony Kazuski. Tony, so thank you so much for volunteering to serve and becoming a new member of our Conservation Commission.
Happy to serve.
Yes.
Looking
Tony,
forward to it. Yeah.
are you related to Maddie?
Yeah, I'm her dad. So
All right.
yeah,
Excellent.
so
Great. And it's worth noting that Tony's been attending several meetings in the past. So if anybody could be up to speed, yours is up to speed as any of us have ever been as new members. So
I've had a little bit of interaction with Megan before when she was in Waltham too, because I'm a professor at Bentley, and Bentley got involved in some issues, and I was trying to do some mosquito trapping on Waltham land, so we interacted a little bit on there. So
great.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
wonderful.
Mm.
All right. Our next agenda item is community input. Would anyone from the community like to say something before we get started on the rest of the agenda? And Jonathan, is your hand up? I guess not.
Nope.
Okay, there's a little funny hand there. Okay, no, hearing none, we'll move on to our first agenda, the 7:05 p.m. agenda. Item number 1, Land Stewardship Committee update. Who is going to speak on behalf of the Land Stewardship Committee?
Happy to, Melissa. This is Chris. We did have one meeting, a very brief meeting, to discuss land use permit on July the 2nd, I believe it was. And that's the bat study that I think I mentioned at the last meeting. Professor Robbins from Tufts sets up some ultrasonic microphones on a few different properties, and we had a meeting to approve that land use permit. And I've talked to her today, and it's just a question of getting it signed off, and I'll send that um, to the town hall once I get hers typed out and mine signed, and then those microphones will be going up shortly, I believe.
This is a bat study.
Yep, it's ultrasonic. They listen to the bats with the ultrasonic microphones. I keep saying scopes, microphones, and that's the only thing they record is this frequency that we can't hear or communicate in. So, but apparently it's a lot like the Merlin app that identifies birds by the certain sounds that they make. Only this one is ultrasonic.
It's
So,
a cool app actually, but it costs a lot more. Merlin's free and the bat
oh,
one
yeah.
is
Well, yeah, I guess
checked into it.
the microphones are very expensive.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Is there any chance that they will share their
Yeah,
study results with us so we can post them on the website or maybe
yeah,
a
she said
mosquito
she was
article?
working on that. We've had a mosquito article a while ago that I looked up, and it's on the Lance Stewart's documents page for our meeting. Was that mosquito article that describes what they're doing in the study, and it does go into a national database. So even though we may not be getting published updates, the data that they collect is going into a national database. But she said she was working to sort of put something together for us.
So commissioners, comments and questions? Go ahead, Sylvia, you were first.
It's my understanding that this is a continent-wide study that's done. I don't know how much the folks that Chris is dealing with are doing as part of it, but it's not only here, but probably Canada and Mexico. It's quite neat.
Yeah, agreed.
I
Tony,
remember mentioning it at a meeting several years ago, pre-COVID, to a bunch of get together of other conservation administrators, and I commented we were participating, and there was a general ooh ah. It's like, how nice that you were chosen. So
Tony, you had a comment. No?
Muted.
You're muted, Tony.
I was just scratching my ear. Sorry.
Oh, I thought you had a hand up. Sorry.
Yeah.
I've been mist netting for bats once. It's pretty fun. It would be exciting to find that our little brown bats are starting to thrive again after the white nose disease.
Mesh netting, did you say, Melissa?
Mist netting.
Mist netting.
You set up these nets that are like 6 or 7 feet tall, and they have like little pockets, and the bats fly in and get caught, and then you gently remove them, and you can see what species you caught and what sex they are. And it's pretty cool. It was in the Amazon.
Interesting.
But
Cool.
so yeah, it's nice. It'd be good to see the bats are doing well. All right.
But no other items, no other meeting. We didn't take up any other topics at that meeting. So
All right. Well, that's a cool update. Thank you, Chris.
sure.
Item number 2, vote to pay bills. We have 3 items. Do you want to go over those, Megan?
Sure. So we have 2 invoices from MACC. One of them is for $783, and that's just the annual expense for our subscription for all 7 commissioners and then our staff. And so that can come out of the operating budget or our subscription line item. And then the second invoice from MACC is $75 for training for me for Fern ID, which I'm really excited about because there's a lot of ferns in Carlisle. So I figured I should get good at identifying them. So I'll actually be taking that training tomorrow in Harvard, which is exciting. And then the last expense is from Sumco for $7,200. This is actually from April. And while I was closing out FY26, I realized that I somehow missed this. And so this was just for the clearing of the risers back in April, can be paid from the Cranberry Bog Repair CPA funds, and all the work relative to this has been completed since May, and the contract is fulfilled.
Megan, is that just for one clearing of the 2? So this is for clearing
Of both
dams?
of the outlet control structures. What it is because they have to mobilize to the site. So every time they have to mobilize to the site, they just went for that one thing. So that's why it seems like a high price. Because they couldn't do all the work at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it's just to clear 2 flumes.
No.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yes and no.
It
It's
was
not-
like excavation.
Yeah.
They had to use
Oh.
a whole machine, clear it. I think they had to haul off the sediment off site. They brought it to our DPW.
Oh, I get it.
So
Okay,
it's kind of like a larger
it's like
operation.
dredging in addition to removing detritus from beaver gnawing. All right,
So
Great.
is this being taken out of this year's budget, or can it still come out of last year's? Or
Well, it's the CPA funds,
Oh, okay.
so
all right,
it's not really budget restricted, but
CBA.
commissioners, any other comments, questions? Can I get a motion to vote to pay the bills, to approve the bills, payment of the bills? I guess that's the right way to say it, right?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Roll call vote. Tony?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Sylvia?
Aye.
And the extempore chair, me, Melissa, votes aye too. Motion passes. Okay, next item 3. Public meeting request for determination of applicability, DOA number 399, location Lakely Trail, parcel 29-1A. The applicant is the town of Carlisle, the Trails Committee. And this is for a construction of a 35-foot long, 2-foot 8-inch wide boardwalk over a perennial stream and bordering vegetated wetlands. Steve, I know you're on the call. Would you like to tour us through this?
Yeah,
I
I
know.
think Alan's probably going to do the narrative.
Alan, okay, go for it.
Yeah, I think I'm the designated designated Conscom narrator. So, Steve Tobin and Warren are both here too. So this is the next item that we're trying to knock off our to-do list for the Trails Committee. And as Melissa said, it is actually 33 feet. The narrative says 35, but in reality, it's only about 33 and 2'8" wide. That's a little narrower than usual. We usually make them 4 feet wide. The reason this is 2'8", first of all, 2'8" is not just a random number. It's 1/3 of an 8-foot board. So we take 8-foot boards and cut them into 3 pieces. It's actually 32 inches is a standard construction measurement for quite a lot of things. So that's why it's 2'8" and not 3 feet, for instance. But one of the main reasons we wanted to make it a little narrower was that when we were trying to lay it out, trying to fit a 4-foot wide boardwalk into kind of a tight area with a bunch of rocks and trying to avoid disturbing the wetlands at the same time. So trying to minimize any disturbance that we're doing led us to think that a 2'8" boardwalk would fit in a lot better to do that. And it's a fairly lightly used trail, so we're happy to be that narrow, and also because it's a short boardwalk. Longer boardwalks need to be a bit wider, and heavily used trails do too. If you want to flip on, yeah, maybe the next page, Megan, is a really good one to look at. Page, yeah, I keep going through there. I'd go on one or two more. Yeah, that's a good one. Figure 11 is good if you just kind of scroll back up a little bit.
Sorry, it's slow.
Yeah,
It's getting there.
Catching you up. Okay. So essentially what we're going to do is build a 14-foot wide span in the middle and then about 9 or 10 feet on each end. And the reason for that is that the mid span can completely clear the stream banks at that point, which is a key thing from the Stream Crossings Handbook. So we can keep the foundation bumpers, if you like, clear of the water and 1.2 times the bank full width. And it also seems to get us out of any vegetated wetlands. So it's kind of a weird spot. The point where we're crossing is actually the widest point of the stream. I think that maybe because of all these logs causing constrictions, which we'll get to in a moment. But while it's the widest part of the stream, it's actually the narrowest part of the wetlands. The wetlands upstream and downstream are quite a bit wider. So the point pretty much where the existing trail crosses the stream, the really there really isn't any wetland plants to speak of beyond the stream banks. So the two little wood strips that you see, one right in the foreground and then one further back, those are where the 6x6 plastic bumpers will be placed. Essentially, we'll just remove rocks that are in the way and put those on the ground at that point and level them up. And then beyond that, at the far end, we'll be digging about 5 inches into the ground, but that is well clear of the wetlands, and it's a lot higher. All the logs that you see there in the stream right now are things that have been placed there over the years by trail users. This is not anything that the Trails Committee's done. And that's one of the main reasons we want to put a boardwalk in there, is so that we can get all of this stuff out of the stream and kind of restore the stream to its natural condition a little more and make it easier to cross, of course. I think that's all I've got in terms of description. Anything I missed, Steve? Oh, well, one thing, we thought this may be a perennial stream, but Megan tells me that she thinks it's an intermittent stream, if that makes any difference.
Mhm.
Anything else, Steve?
No, it sounds good.
So yeah, this is that's what we'd like to do. Oh, yeah, the at a previous meeting, maybe a month or so ago, we talked about the 6x6 recycled HDPE plastic that we're using instead of concrete bumpers. We used that on a project on Two Rod Road a couple of weeks ago, and we intend to use it here. So there'll just be 2 of those, and they'll be 4 feet long, right where those little pieces of wood that you see in the foreground and towards the background of this photo are.
Thank you, Alan. Megan, comments from you?
Yeah, I guess I'll just start with the intermittent versus perennial part. On the USGS map, it shows it as intermittent. And when I went on stream stats, it also appeared to be intermittent. It could be perennial, but that would you'd have to like overturn what's presumed based on the USGS mapping. So I just thought maybe best to refer to it as intermittent for now, since we're not going through that classification process for this RDA. We're not going to be confirming any wetland resource areas likely, so probably doesn't matter. But yeah, all work, as Ellen noted, they're going to be done with hand tools. There's no heavy equipment going into the area, no digging involved to put in the sills that support the boardwalk. And as he mentioned, they'll be outside of the BVW, which is important. So I'd recommend issuing a negative determination that the work described is within the buffer zone, but won't alter the area subject to protection and therefore doesn't require a notice of intent filing. I looked through a lot of the past filings by the trails committees or other groups that have proposed trails that cross streams and wetlands. And it appears that the precedent is that the commission has allowed this kind of filing through an RDA. I saw 6 being approved through determinations in the last 10 years for similar projects. So just wanted to note that. Because while I think that it should be permitted through a negative determination, I just also wanted to make the commission aware that I've been hearing from some administrators in neighboring towns that DEP has been a little bit more strict on stream crossings when it comes to trails and boardwalks. And there have been a few instances where DEP has appealed and required a notice of intent. But I think in those scenarios, typically there is an alteration in the BVW. So in this case, if the sills are outside of that and they're in the buffer zone, then I think it's fine. But I just kind of wanted to provide background.
Comments from commissioners? Questions? Community people, others who are on the call? Can I get a motion to determine a sort of, let's see, a motion for a negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Sylvia,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Tony.
Aye.
And I, Melissa, vote aye as well. Motion passes.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for your time, and thanks for
Thank you,
your
Alan.
approval.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item 4 is a presentation from the Historical Commission about their proposed demolition review bylaw. And who's speaking tonight on behalf of that commission?
Hi, everybody.
Oh,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Ben.
I'm Ben Herder from the Historical Commission, co-chair, and Chrissy, also co-chair.
Hi, everyone.
Is on the line.
Right.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you guys tonight about the demolition review bylaw. This is something that the Historical Commission has been working on for the past couple years. And we will be bringing this to town meeting this fall. So we're very happy to be able to talk with you about it this evening. And hopefully tonight we'll be able to answer any questions that you may have about it. We have a short slideshow to present. So if I'm able to share my screen, I'll do that. Okay. So we'll just kind of open with a broad question. What kind of community does Carlisle want to be in 50 years or 75 years or 100 years? Just to give you some kind of context for the bylaw, it is a planning tool for the town of Carlisle to support thoughtful pathways for change. It is not about preventing change altogether. We see it as a level of stewardship of the built and the natural environment, as much a conservation tool as a historic preservation tool, which it is also. There are many ecological benefits to it, some of which are preserving embodied carbon, as well as keeping materials out of landfills. And so this is where we are today. These are a number of the reasons why Carlisle needs a demolition review bylaw right now. Carlisle, based on the master plan, has an established interest in historic preservation and the retention of historic and cultural resources. And we see the bylaw as a tool to help the town support that goal and achieve that goal. And so, as I said, we've been working on this for a couple of years now. Over the past couple of years, we've been refining the parameters of the bylaw to better suit the town of Carlisle. We've been doing this through a lot of outreach at open houses, meetings like this with boards and committees, going back and forth with town council. And so these are highlighting some of the things that have evolved over time. So we've reduced the timeline of the demolition delay from 18 months to 12 months. We have changed the threshold for the age of homes from a 50-year rolling clock to a date of pre-1970. 50 years, just for context, is the industry standard as established by the Secretary of the Interior's. But after we received feedback from the public, we felt like that was not necessarily the right fit for the town. And so we have set it at pre-1970 to capture the largest growth period that happened in town. We added in also this item here. It's a predetermination of historical significance. And really, we're just trying to make this bylaw as approachable and palatable to the people of Carlisle as possible. So this is a predetermination of any property that is good for 5 years. People can come in well in advance of applying for a demolition application. and get that determination from the Historical Commission. And we've expanded the intents and purposes section of the bylaw, again, just to make it more specific, transparent, and clear to the town. And we've also been incorporating language from the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness program in that core committee, which has been ongoing for the past few years. That was a lot of that kind of circled around, again, the preservation of embodied carbon, but they also had made some suggestions about including alternatives to demolition. So like deconstruction or selective dismantling of buildings, as well as documentation of properties before they're demolished. Chrissy, do you want to speak to the next one?
Yes. I'm just going to go back and parse out with a little bit more clarity the reason that we have come to use this pre-1970s date as the sort of trigger period for review of a property. So this graph is showing us the trajectory of the growth in town, starting, obviously there's some growth that predates 1900, but it's, very much a small agricultural community up until 1950. And then as you are all probably very familiar, in 1962, the zoning laws, the 2-acre zoning laws were enacted, and this was kind of the boom for Carlisle for residential growth. So that growth continued for about a 10-year period, making the sort of cutoff for the determination of the historical significance for an age of a home, predating that 1970s date. And I think also it's Carlisle's most significant residential development. So as I just mentioned, the agricultural development is happening sort of up into that point, but this is really specifically a residential boom. The population doubled. There was an intentional creation of neighborhoods, not just the relationship of structures for an agricultural purpose. And the deck houses and core houses are some of the really distinctive structures that came out of this period, but also some structures and architectural design that really defines Carlisle's character at this point. So that's been our focus on why we've chosen this pre-1970s date for the demolition review. And if we want to go to the next slide, Ben, we also just want to provide some clarity in this slide. I'm not going to read this all to you, but these are some of the things that we want to make very clear that the bylaw does not do. The bylaw is very much meant to be a tool for the town for the conservation and thoughtful change for its cultural future. So it's very much a planning tool for the community of Carlisle. One of many ways that the town can have a conversation about what its future is going to look like in 50 years, 100 years. And we think that that's an important resource for the town to at least have the option of engaging in this kind of a conversation. And finally, I just want to review some of the outreach that we've been doing. Ben touched on it a bit, but moving forward, we are holding office hours. So we'd love to see members of the public come and speak to us there. We've had multiple open houses and we'll continue to do some outreach through those. We've been present at Route to Sustainability Day, Old Home Day. As we're doing this evening, we're doing our boards and committee socializing for the bylaw. And we've also met with the building commissioner, who's been supportive of this effort. And we are getting some thoughts and feedback through the town planning office. So it's, we're really trying to approach this from as many angles as possible to make it the best bylaw for the town of Carlisle. So at this point, I think we'd love to open it up and see if your committee has any thoughts or questions for us. We're happy to have a discussion if that's helpful.
Commissioners?
I had a couple of questions, but do we want to have the pictures here? This shared screen. Do you make a distinction between buildings that are of historical interest, like say the deck house, or the antique house? Things that have been around since the late 1700s, say.
There's no specific distinction as far as giving preference to either style of construction. It's at this point, the review is set up as a two-step process. So the initial demolition permit would be applied for through the building commissioner's office. And if that date falls in that pre-1970s date range, then the application for demolition would be forwarded to the historical commission. So at that point, there's no differential between a quote unquote antique and sort of a mid-century home.
Okay. What about you have an antique of historical interest, significant historical interest, say, and a portion of the building is to be removed and replaced with something updated. So the whole house isn't, or building isn't being removed, just a portion of it and being added to, say.
Yeah. So if the portion was built pre-1970, then it would fall under the bylaw as well. So
Okay. Is there any specific general information that you're looking for that would lead you to say, okay, it's this one you can tear down, or this one you can't tear down because?
Yes, we have written both into the bylaw and as a clarifying appendix to the bylaw, a very specific objective set of criteria on which to make that evaluation. And that evaluation comes from a sort of a matrix of all of those questions and how they relate to one another before any determination would be made.
Okay, that's all for me.
Great, thank you.
The appendix, I saw the bylaw, I read through the bylaw. Was the appendix there too?
So on the Historical Commission's website, on the town's homepage there, there is a section that is called, I'm actually going to make sure I give you the completely correct name here before I tell you. Yeah, the Historical Significance Checklist. And that kind of pulls out the specific criteria that is included in the bylaw just for clarity for people if they wanted to look at that specifically.
How does there was a barn bylaw that went through a few years ago. Does that involved in this at all?
I think, are you referring to the distinctive structures?
Yes, yeah.
So that is more of a planning tool, and it has a relation to the building inspector's office as well, but it is not a demolition review bylaw specifically.
Any other questions from commissioners? Any members of the public? Thank you so much for your presentation.
Okay. Well, thank
very
you all
much
for your time.
And,
Yeah, and we
look
are
forward to seeing you guys at all of the events that we're scheduling throughout the summer and fall.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
everyone.
Thank you.
All right. moving along, we're on item 5, public hearing, notice of intent, DEP file number 125-1212 for 253 Knoll Farm Road. This is about the construction of addition to an existing single-family home, construction of a retaining wall, driveway relocation, mitigation planning within the 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. This is continued from June 11 and June 25. Megan, where are we on this?
Yeah, so due to a lack of quorum, the hearing has to be continued to our August 6th meeting. Because Tony's a new member and he wasn't here for when the hearing was opened. He's not able to vote, and then Sylvia's recused, so that only leaves you and Nick tonight, which is not a quorum. So that's why we have to continue to the August 6th meeting.
Got it.
And there is some revised plans that I put in the meeting packet, so just so you all know, to review those before our next meeting.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'll just need a motion to continue it. And then we
Okay, can I have a motion, please, to continue the public hearing?
So
to
moved.
Our August 6th, thanks, 6th meeting. Thank you, that was Nick?
Tony, but I will
Oh,
second.
Tony. Tony, thank you, Tony. Second?
Yep.
Nick, thank you, Nick. Roll call, Tony?
Aye.
Nick?
Go.
Sylvia?
I guess, yeah. So,
And as temporary chair, Melissa, I vote aye as well, as the motion carries. All right, our next item at 7:46
One
p.m.
point of
Actually,
clarification, just curious,
sorry.
since I was recused from the issue, can I still vote on motions like that? So,
Oh,
Yeah, I think that's fine. It's
okay,
just,
yeah.
yeah.
that's a great question, Tony. Thank you. All right, so we actually are running 1 minute ahead.
It's probably fine. Let's go for it.
All righty,
We'll
so
change
but
it
I'll
a second.
introduce it anyway. Okay, item number 6, public meeting. It's a request for full certification, certificate of compliance for DEP file number 125-1064, Woodward Village, Case Walk, parcel 104X. Applicant is Stamsky McNary on behalf of Now Communities LLC. This is construction of the 18 units, dwelling units and associated appurtenances, and this is continued from May 28, June 11, and June 25 of this year. Megan, can you enlighten us on the status?
Sure. So as you may remember, we had a peer reviewer review this request for a certificate of compliance. They did a site visit. They provided their comments. John Rockwood from Ecotech, he's actually here tonight. And we provided those comments to the applicant, and the applicant provided their responses to those comments. I know George, Sylvia, Melissa went on a site visit with the applicant in June just to see in the field what the comments from the peer reviewer were and to see the site as it is. So with that, I think I'll pass it to the applicant to maybe go over their responses. And then after that, if it's okay, John, I'll pass it to you if you have any comments on that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, and everyone on the board. So Dave Crossman is he's going to join us as well from BNC. Unfortunately, he's having trouble signing on, but he should be here shortly, hopefully. So maybe if I talk really slowly, he'll get on.
Having a technical problem with our link. If so, Megan, you're muted, but you can send him the link again, just in case.
Thank you. I actually sent him a copy on the agenda, which I was able to get in on. And I think what I'm going to do is, if it's okay with the board, I think I'm going to ask Dan Carr from Stamsky to just walk through. Is that the most efficient way to do this, the particular items in our response?
Yeah, I think so. I think either going through item by item or showing the site plan and going through item by item that way will work.
Great.
Sure, I will do that. I will share my screen so that we can
Thanks, Dan.
go through the comments. All right, so the first comment from the peer review was basically asking a question about who the responsible party is for the operation and maintenance of the stormwater system is. And that responsible party is the homeowners association, and that was noted on the stormwater operations and maintenance manual way back in I forget what year it was when this was first permitted, but we do have a stormwater operation and maintenance manual that notes the responsible party. The second comment was that there were erosion control barriers in a state of disrepair. And I believe those have all been repaired in areas where there is not where areas are not stabilized. So I believe that comment has been addressed. The third comment was about the slopes. There are two areas of slopes that were covered in stump grindings, and I'm just going to circle them in red here. So there's one area and over here as well. And so those areas were covered with stump grindings. And when the multiple times I've been out on the site, I didn't notice any erosion on site. And I did notice that there was some native vegetation that started growing on that slope. So it is, our office's opinion that the slope is currently stable, and removing the stump grindings so that it can be loamed and seeded would open up the slopes to possible erosion. If we had one of those freak storm events before the grass grew in, it could cause problems. And in our office's opinion, the slope is currently stable. There's already vegetation starting to grow in that slope. And we didn't notice any active erosion currently on that. So that was comment number 3. Number 4, the wetland flags were probably missing or unable to be found. And the applicant is hoping that we don't have to replace those wetland flags as, the project is complete. And the environmental monitor, David Crossman, didn't noted that there was no wetland violations during construction, and most work besides the crossing with the driveway was done far from the wetland edge. The 5th comment was, has the commission been provided with a statement by the HOA that they are aware of the order of conditions and the conditions that the order places on the property? And I know that Dan was working with the HOA president to get a statement, and I'm not sure.
I believe that's been delivered, Danny. I think Megan received that.
Yeah, yesterday maybe I got it. Yep.
Good. The 6th comment was asking about a qualified environmental monitor for the project. And Dave Crossman was that environmental monitor. And he did submit reports as required. I'm not sure if Megan knows where those are or what the deal with that is, but he did submit reports. Condition note number 7, related to tree protection. There was a tree leaning towards Unit 15, and the applicant is hoping that that tree or that tree is the responsibility of the homeowner. And if it is removed, the stump would remain. And I believe when we were out there, we noted it was just like one branch of a tree that was leaning towards the house. So I think if it were to be removed, it would just be that branch. Comment number 8 is talking about the weekly inspection reports required by the environmental monitor. And Dave Crossman had submitted those inspections as part of the stormwater pollution prevention plan monitoring. Comment number 9 is related to the stabilizing the slopes according to the erosion and sedimentation control notes on the plan of record, which mentioned vegetative stabilization and the use of erosion control blankets.
And there was an area noted near the private wells, which are in the rear of the property. That area had the stones that had to be moved for construction were stored in this area, and those were recently moved to mark the edge of the yards as required by the order. So where the stones were near the wells is now open. So we are going to have that loamed and seeded in the appropriate growing season. Comment number 10 is about those stones, actually, by chance. The stone walls were so during construction, there were internal stone walls in the property that needed to be moved for the development. And it was noted during the permitting process that we should use those stones to mark the edge of some of the yards so that to prevent future disturbance beyond the approved limit of work. And so those stones were used to mark the edge of those yards. However, they ran out of stones. So they were able to use the stones as shown here, but then it stops right here. And the order had mentioned that the stones should continue across unit number 3 down this way. Like I said, they ran out of stones, and also behind unit 2. So instead of having to import stones to the site, we're hoping to propose something like a pheno marker to mark the edge of those yards. And the pheno markers could say something like conservation area, no disturbance beyond this point, if the commission is amenable to that. Comment number 11 is about invasive species, and Dave Crossman did not note any areas that needed extensive invasive management, so there was no invasive management report. Comment number 12 is talking about the plantings that were required as proposed on the permitting plan. And let me just note on the plan where those were. So there were plantings proposed near the stream on either side of the driveway in these areas here. And instead, the plants were planted up gradient of where they were proposed in like this area and this area, and up here and over here. But since, several years have passed since there's been any work in the area, the area has grown in pretty well with native vegetation. I noted, a bunch of white pines, red maples, wild grape, growing in that area where the plantings were proposed. I did note that there were a couple of areas that were still somewhat open that I thought we could, plant. And those areas were right along the edge of the wall on this side of the stream. And it was more like a smaller area on this side of the stream that was a bit open. So we are hoping to plant those open areas in those with the same native plants that were approved, except not in the exact locations that were proposed, just because they're already filled with native vegetation. So that is. So that's comment number 12. And comment number 13 was just that the continuing conditions of not using fertilizer and pesticides in the buffer zone, and review of future tree removal before the removal occurs and stuff like that. And beyond those comments, we noted that another change was that the gravel that separates the sediment forebay from the infiltration basin here, that was enhanced with larger size riprap. In one of the recent heavy storm events, the gravel washed out a little bit here because it was smaller size gravel. So that has been enhanced with larger size riprap, and some of the gravel that was there was removed so that we are still having the same filtering capacity, just with larger riprap on top, and it's been brought to the same elevation as approved. So there's really no change to the function of the stormwater system, and we shouldn't have any more blowouts of the gravel now that the larger size riprap is there. And it was noted that there were a couple of missing items on the as-built plan that we've since survey located. There was a missing shed at the end of the road for the septic system, as well as a small retaining wall along the slope here. And so we've survey located those. And I believe that is all the comments.
Yeah, I can report that that stone, the smaller stone, had been replaced prior to the last intense storm that we had, and it held up great. No issues.
Mr. Rockwood, can we hear from you, please?
Yes. My name is John Rockwood. I'm a principal environmental scientist at Ecotech. I was retained to essentially compare the site to the as-built plan and the order of conditions. I basically went through it and noted anything that was a deviation. I didn't really provide any opinion on whether the existing condition is adequate. I simply provided a comment indicating it wasn't per the order, per the plan, and that those kinds of things. The one outstanding thing is I believe there was some commentary regarding the area beneath the crossing. There's some crushed stone and there's some erosion controls within the box culvert that need to be removed, as well as the additional plantings that they're proposing. There's a pile of soil.
Yep, we're aware of that, and we intend to remove all of the erosion control as soon as we get permission from the commission to do
There's
so.
some erosion control in there. There's some crushed stone in there.
Mhm.
There's a pile of soil at the upstream end of the culvert outside of the wetland, but along what would be the upland bank of the crossing. So that should just be smoothed out. So there's like 3 things within that crossing that need to be addressed. Other than that, it's really a matter of the commission allowing the deviations that the applicant and his engineer have proposed relative to some of the other items, whether the phenomarkers, the plantings in that other location, riprap on the slopes instead of vegetated slopes, and the wood chips, stump grindings on the slopes rather than a vegetated slope. The area behind units 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14 is a similar steep slope, but that was loamed, seeded, and covered with jute mesh, and it's grown in well, and it's got shrubs growing up in it as well. That's outside the buffer zone, but that work was done in conformance with the detail on the plan with regard to slope stabilization. The other areas weren't. But again, all these deviations are simply things that the commission has to either accept or not accept, and require them to be dealt with as per the approved plan and the order.
If I may, just to the degree that it would be helpful for everybody on the call, that bank, you are correct. First of all, Mr. Rockwood, I appreciate your clarifying what your role was and what your sort of scope of reaction. That's very helpful for me. That bank was actually done as a separate part of the project. A request was made after the project had been approved, and to extend to toe the slope back. And we worked with the neighbor who was amenable to that. And there was an entire, I think, Danny, you may I don't remember the exact details, but it had a completely separate sort of scope and description and a plan of attack. It also had a lot to do with the timing of when the work was done. And I don't know if this was communicated to you, Mr. Rockwood, but that was a big driver for a lot of the decisions that are actually in the field. And I will say that, and for everyone's benefit, I imagine some of the members of the CONSCOM were not there 6 years ago when this all started. All of the work that we did was always communicated, or any deviations or changes were communicated with the CONSCOM prior to doing the work. So I want to make that clear, that we were not running rogue, and we had a very collaborative and communicative and close relationship with the CONSCOM throughout this project. And if anything was a deviation, it was usually driven by the timing that the work was completed and the season and the seasonal impacts on that. And so stump grindings was a decision that was made because that bank where the green is set up, that was a fairly large fill. And so when it was completed roughly in the latter part of the fall, and so maybe even into the winter, and a decision was made to use the stump grindings because it would provide the necessary stabilization throughout the winter. The same thing, quite candidly, is true relative to where the wetland plantings. When we finished the culvert, it was beyond the planting season for when we could get down there. So we came back the next season to when it came time to do it. And a lot of the plantings had already established themselves down at the base of the culvert.
Mhm. Yeah, there's
So
just nothing in
I'm
writing.
not arguing. I just want to make sure that you have the complete,
Yep.
my motivation, just make sure you have the complete backdrop.
Yeah, I was given two sets of plan changes, but there was nothing in writing with regard to the items that you just discussed that I was provided with. There is one other thing I'd like to discuss briefly, and that is I did peer review the wetland boundaries for the ANRAD, and I've been asked to peer review the certificate of compliance. Everybody sort of missed the ball on this filing. The Conservation Commission, DEP, and the applicant. This is not a buffer zone project. BVW, bank, and land underwater were impacted at the crossing. And the order and the notice of intent were silent on BVW, bank, and land underwater impacts. DEP had no technical comments on it, and the order, I believe, did not include any discussion of, BVW, land underwater, or bank impacts. So whenever there's a stream crossing, whatever, I know I've done a couple peer reviews more recently where there have been stream crossings, and I've been involved with those. This one I wasn't brought in on. Some of these things can be addressed more readily as part of the notice of intent and order process, rather than cleaning up things at the end that could have been done somewhat differently for better effect. But even DEP missed it, so I don't really blame anybody. But it's just, I'm just pointing something out.
Can I, just for clarification, because we are going to go in there, as I mentioned to, with the CONSCOM's authorization to clean it up. Are there things that we can do in the course of that work that would make it better? Or, I mean, this is not my area of expertise.
Yeah,
and if we're going to go down there and do work, I'd rather, do it, try to address some of the concerns you have.
Yeah, just cleaning up all the inappropriate materials that are within the box culvert, getting those materials out of there, and whether it's reaching an excavator bucket down over and filling the bucket and bringing it up, you really shouldn't bring any heavy equipment down there. Mm-hmm. It's really a matter of some handwork and coming up with the easiest way possible from up above to get the material out of there, rather than going up the vegetated slope, so to speak.
We,
And
we have an opportunity to do precisely that. So I'm glad I'm asking you this, because we have to replace the caps on the crossing, several of them. So we're going to have a machine there that's going to be up above that
yeah,
we could do
I
that.
pointed that out in my memo too, but that's really not a Concom issue. Several of the caps were cracked and pitted and whatever. So, that's pretty much it. Some of this could have been dealt with as part of the order. The order was pretty comprehensive, and it did permit this work. It's just the form was not necessarily filled out completely correctly, and the notice of intent form wasn't filled out completely correctly either. So,
Mr. Rockwood, what's your assessment in terms of the stability of the slopes that have grindings on them?
well, stump grindings are better than wood chips or bark mulch. They tend to last longer, but they're not a permanent solution. It really depends how much more vegetation grows up within that. It's fairly sparse right now. Perhaps, the stump grindings could be left there, and there could be some supplemental plantings to sort of speed that process along. And then you'd end up with a vegetated slope. And eventually what would happen is the stump grindings would rot away, but that's probably going to take about a decade or more, because those are more resilient than wood chips. Again, my point in my comments was I was simply asked to compare the site to the plan, to the order, and provide any deviations, and that's what I did. And it's really up to the commission to determine which of these deviations are acceptable to them and which are not. I can certainly contribute. That question that I was just asked is certainly a good, valid question. It's a pretty significant area. You don't really want to open that area up again if you don't have to. But perhaps a planting plan or something could, some plants that would grow on that slope 10 feet apart or something, or whatever, come up with a plan to deal with that. When you're out there doing the plantings this fall at the crossing, you could augment that slope with some additional plantings. You can open up some small areas of it and put some seed mix in and create little patches of stuff to serve as a seed source. Not big areas, just, 6 inches, and throw some seed in there and something might grow up and it'll just contribute some seeds to the area. There's lots of options for that. My professional opinion is we don't want to take a slope that steep, open it up, unless, the rain events we get nowadays are just crazy. You get 1.5 inches of rain in half an hour, and then you don't get any rain for 3 weeks. So, a slope like that, if it's opened up and you get the wrong rainfall at the wrong moment, it's a mess. And the wetland's pretty much right there. So if that slope lets loose, stuff's going to get into that wetland. And they managed to build this without impacting the wetlands. So let's come up with a plan to get some more vegetation into those areas, just speed up the natural successional process.
And that's great. Remind me, when were those grindings put down on that pretty steep slope?
They were put down at least probably 3.5 years ago. It was done during the winter.
So we haven't seen a lot of growth coming up there.
Oh no, we actually have. We have some photographs. Danny, we went out and took some photographs for people.
There was one slope I recall. I'm not sure I remember from the site visit exactly how to define.
It's variable in terms
There's
of
one
cover
slope
out
that
there.
had really very little growing on it for 3.5 years.
Yeah, that's why I said let's speed up the process and get
Yeah.
some stuff planted in there to move it forward. Some herbaceous stuff and some smaller shrubs that can handle being on a slope like that in fairly dry conditions. But everything needs to be native, and I'd say such a plan would need to be at least submitted to the commission for review.
The good news is that several of those slopes sort of face a little bit north, so they get some shade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Commissioners, questions? Sylvia?
I like John's idea of, some shrubs and maybe some few patches opened up for some seed. I worry that left alone, it doesn't really belong to any one individual except for the whole complex. I worry that they'll just lose track of it and significant invasive plants will get established, and then everybody's going to have trouble keeping it out of their yards. And steep slopes should be taken care of.
What about the markers?
The pheno markers, I've seen them used in other places. They're not very big, but I would say it would get in the way of someone's lawnmower and do a nasty job on it. So,
well, I'd suggest if they do the pheno markers that they be a certain distance apart, and perhaps put a 1.5 to 2 foot diameter stone on the undeveloped side of the pheno marker.
Good idea.
To prevent the lawnmower from doing that. The other alternative is you could put a post and rail fence just beyond the pheno markers. But the boulders are cheaper and less, there's some stone left out there.
Yes, there is.
My concern regarding the riprap that's in like 3 areas of the site is it was done using round stones. So it's not as stable as it would be if it were angular stones, but that's something your engineer can, confirm the appropriateness of and whatnot, or there just might need to be some smaller angular stones added to that just to make it more stable. My concern is someone decides to walk down the riprap slope rather than go around and they end up on their back at the bottom of the slope because the round rocks rolled.
Yeah.
But that's probably a fairly limited amount of work that's necessary to, particularly near the parking lot with the garage, unit 3, unit 7 area. That slopes, got some more, it's a fairly large area and it's rounded stone, and I actually walked up to see how it was, and I almost ended up at the bottom on my back. So that's why I commented on that. The area out near unit 15, no one's going to go there. That's fine. And apparently there's some turtles that like digging that area up for nesting anyways. So, that's going to be an interesting piece of lawn to keep lawn.
I'd like to, just as a quick aside, to address the issue of the reports from the environmental reports from David Crossman. We were inundated with them, and they're all in a digital folder in the file, and I read every single one of them. And we also had similar things on another project in town, and they'd come in at the same time in the same email. So it was interesting contrasting the two. And especially when it comes to how much rain we were getting in a storm, because it's different. The amount of rain we'd get down at Woodward Village would be very different than the project on the other side of town.
Yeah, and I have all the reports. There's like 200 or so, but they're all just related to they're all related to the stormwater. There's none related to the plantings, wetland crossing, things like that. And I didn't find any related to the putting the stump grindings in instead. So that's why I didn't send them to John, just because he wasn't reviewing the stormwater, so I figured why send 200 plus reports about stormwater and stabilization during the process, but that's that.
Took me a little while to realize how many of them were coming, because at first I was printing them out and putting them in the file. And after a while I said, that's crazy.
Okay, so our task tonight is to help Dan and Dan with their final work list, right?
Yeah, so it sounds like the commission is okay with having them clean up the area under the crossing where there's still the sediment controls and stuff like that. So it sounds like the commission was okay with them doing that. And then in terms of like the other three items, the wetland crossing plantings, the slope stabilization, and then the boundary markers on the property. It sounds like the commission is okay with the pheno markers as long as they're placed correctly to John's recommendation. Is that correct?
You just want to make sure there's a 1 foot to 2 foot stone behind each one so they don't become victims of the lawnmower.
Or removed and placed in other parts of the landscaping.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then in regard to the slope stabilization and the wetland crossing, maybe we could have Dan and Dan come back with a proposed planting plan that shows some augmented plantings on the slopes to help stabilize that. And then also show where they're going to be planting by the wetland crossing and what species, and then the commission can review that and decide if it's adequate or not. It looks like in the responses, Dan, correct. How many plantings did you propose in the response? Let me pull it up.
38.
38. Okay.
That should be
38.
adequate for the 2 areas on the downstream side of the crossing.
Can I just comment, Megan, too, or looking for clarification? I like Dr. Rockwood's suggestion of doing this, opening up some areas like in a limited way and putting some loam down in seed. Does it make sense if we do that to use the jute mesh in those localized areas? Or is that kind of ineffective?
I just take like a 1 foot diameter area, move the chips aside, and just scratch some seed into the soil that's underneath it.
Okay.
I wouldn't import any loam or whatever and see what pops up. And as part of your planting plan, propose some actual herbaceous species, like some goldenrods or whatever that would grow on a slope like that, as well as some shrubs that would sort of like that. Sweet fern likes that kind of area. Dave probably has some good ideas on what would grow on those kinds of slopes. That's what's growing on the grass slope behind units 8, 10, and 12. There's some sweet fern that's coming in there. And that's it's a relatively cheap plant. If you go to Bigelow's, you can get some 2 to 3 foot tall ones, and they're not outrageous in cost. And there's some other species, like I said, Dave can give you some suggestions.
Great.
What about seed for something like Rudbeckia?
Yeah, black-eyed Susan and that kind of stuff. Yeah,
it's can be quite pretty.
Mm-hmm. Attractive and functional.
Mm.
Good combination.
It serves 2 purposes. It makes it look nicer for the condo owners, and it also serves the stabilization and wildlife habitat concerns.
And those are things that theoretically we would plant in the fall?
Typically, you plant those materials in the fall. The seed may not germinate until the spring, but again, if you just do a small area, there's not much chance of a washout. If you do a 10 by 10 area, that could wash out, but if you just do a number of like 1 foot diameter circles in various places and put, a limited amount of seed in each one. Or you plant one of those herbaceous plants in it and you just put a little bit of seed around it. That stuff will grow up around that plant. So there's a number of options.
Dr. Rockwood, is there a way to like inject seed somehow?
Well, the seed isn't going to germinate if you get it under the mulch.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It needs to be exposed to the sun,
So
or be
you have
close
to
to the
clear.
soil surface.
Okay.
So like I said, just do little areas. You're going to dig a hole to plant a plant. Just make it a little bit bigger and put 30 or 40 seeds around it and see what pops up.
And water it.
And you're going to have to water it
Right.
till it becomes established.
I think this is I think this is a great plan. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Like I said, a lot of this stuff, particularly things at the crossing that could have been done differently. It's a fairly substantial crossing. I would have suggested sidewalk on one side. I know planning and other things like other things, but this is a very large crossing.
I could not agree with you more. It looked to me, it looks the scale of it looks like it belongs on 495 or something like that.
It's an immense crossing. You have a relatively narrow roadway, you have some grass strips, and you have some sidewalk. It's a huge crossing. It really should have been narrowed in at the actual crossing itself. But it is what it is. Let's just make it better. Let's just fix it.
Dan, do you have what you need to come back to us?
We do. It sounds like timing wise, just because of where we're at in the year, we're probably going to need a couple of months, realistically, to get the work done. But Danny, you feel comfortable that we have what we need?
I believe so.
Okay.
It sounds like Dave and I will work on a planting plan. And I think there's one still, the question on, do we need to put out the wetland flags again? I guess is still open for the commission to decide.
My big thing is you just want the erosion controls downgrading to that slope when you're opening it up to plant it a little bit. But other than that, the wetland flags, the order of condition says they're supposed to be up until the COC is issued. There's a lot of wetland flags, and if you have to put them all back by survey, that's a significant cost. I'd rather have the cost go into the plantings than into putting flags back in the field.
So the flags have been up since the ANRAD. You remember when that was?
Eons ago.
Yes, yes. They're just little pieces of plastic.
They're just little pieces of stubs, and probably 50% of them, the stubs are still there. But like I said, if you just get the erosion controls in around that wetland projection, downgrading to the steep slope. Yeah, that area, yep. And if Dan or Dan need a clarification, I'm perfectly willing to respond to them if they contact me.
I appreciate that. I think in thinking about it, I think what maybe we'll do, Dan, and Megan, I think we'll put a plan together for what the corrective work, and then we'll put that in front of you, Megan. And then if you give us a thumbs up, we'll just schedule the work for the fall as soon as we can do it, or anything that can be done now. Like, I would like to, given the point you made about the machine, I'd really like to, I have a machine coming in before the end of July, so I'd love to take advantage of that, if that makes sense to everybody.
Yeah, cleaning up under the culvert should happen as soon as you can. And if you have a machine sitting there that's capable of bringing stuff out without impacting the vegetation that's there, that's the best time to do that.
And the stream is probably not flowing.
Yeah. Yeah, get
I'm
the
sorry, what
erosion
did you say,
controls
Sylvia?
out.
The stream is probably not flowing.
No, it's not right now. You're right.
No. Yeah, it's the perfect time to do it. Like I said, the stream actually looks really good under the culvert. It's the banks that are a little, the areas outside of the stream where there's the crushed stone, there's some hay bales or some bales or something, and there's a pile of soil. That's, it's really a matter of just loading that into buckets or whatever, and then just putting it into the machine and getting it out of there.
Okay.
It's relatively simple. The project looks great. There's some areas where the lawn isn't quite growing, but that happens on these kinds of things, and you just keep following up on it. And it seems to me that there's like a assigned area associated with each unit that's
Yes.
sort of their responsibility. The tree near unit 15 is at the toe of slope. That's outside of their thing. So you might just want to evaluate that tree and figure out if something needs to be done with it. Work that out with the homeowner.
Yep.
And if you cut it, you can always leave like a 10-foot high snag too. And
Yep.
that provides some habitat.
We did, Sylvia and I were talking about this on the site walk. We brought in Axe Brothers to limb one of the big maples behind our the house, number 1, and that addressed it. So I'll talk to them, see if there's a relatively straightforward way to deal with it.
Yeah, I made them aware of it just so their house wouldn't get damaged, because there's nothing worse than a tree falling on your house when it doesn't have to.
Right. Agreed.
So Dan, I'll send you a memo summary of everything that was discussed tonight of what the commission is looking for, just to summarize everything, have it in one place in writing. And then I'll expect some kind of planting plan, maybe in the next few weeks. We have 2 meetings in August, so whichever works for you based on when you can get the plan done, we can put you on the agenda. The commission can approve that planting plan, and then hopefully we can get the plantings done in the fall. Does that sound good? Okay.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I relative to the planting plan, I don't think you have to have a plan that shows where each shrub's going to go. Outline the area and then have a spacing for shrubs and a spacing for the other, plantings. And then you just, you have your shrubs or whatever, 10 feet on center or 7 feet on center, and you figure out based on the area how many you need, and then because you're never going to match the plan. It's more annoying to try to match a landscape architect's planting plan than it is just to do the work.
And to your point, I've got a pretty good landscaper that probably would appreciate the artistic license. So like you said, set out the parameters and let them do it.
But just identify on the plan the area that's going to get planted.
And I love your idea of when you pop in a shrub or some seedling or whatever to throw some other seeds along to be companions.
Just make sure they're native, non-cultivar plants.
Of course. All right. Megan, do we need a motion to continue to some undetermined date?
Sure. Yeah, you can continue.
Can I get such a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Nick. Second?
Second.
Sylvia, second.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay, Sylvia seconded. Roll call, Tony.
Aye.
Nick.
Aye.
Sylvia.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Melissa. Motion carries.
Yep. I still have some budget left, so I'll keep this job open until August, and then I'll just submit a bill at that time.
That sounds good.
Sounds good.
Because we didn't get all the way through a COC at this point, and I don't know if the commission's going to want monitoring on the plants. You should certainly get a completion report once it's in.
Yep.
But I don't know if you're going to want to watch them for a year. I wouldn't necessarily say watch them for 2 years, but watch them for a year, or at least, that's up to you guys too, as part of approving the planting plan.
And you might want to check to see if any invasives are moving in as well. And Melissa, David Crossman's moved in. So he's, I don't know if he had any comments or not.
David, do you have comments, David?
I don't really have any additional comments at this time.
Okay.
Well, thank you for attending. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Thanks,
Good night.
John.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Rudd.
Thank you. Okay, let's move along to our, no. Yes. Update on conservation land mowing and herbicide treatment services. That's Megan. Give us an
Yes.
update, please.
Yes, a somewhat sad update. But I tried my hardest to use FY26 funds for these services. But our meeting was like June 25th, and it was the end of the month. Ryan went on vacation, so I couldn't get him to sign the contract in time. And then additionally, the town accountant just thought that the process was too rushed and advised us to just use the FY27 funds to pay for these services since it is best practice if you're having a service being provided to you in that fiscal year, you should use that fiscal year's funds. So unfortunately wasn't able to use the FY26 funds. But I guess like the positive spin is that now we'll be ahead of everything. Because we're doing it if we want to do it at the start of FY27, we're ahead of the curve. So that's my positive spin on this. But I'm just looking for confirmation that the commission is okay with using FY27 funds for this, since previously we discussed using FY26 funds. And if so, I can move forward with the contract and finalizing that. So the details here, the mowing contract would be for $15,600 and the herbicide for $4,600. So this is a total of $20,200. And so with the LSC budget being 43,745, that would leave LSC with $23,745 for the remainder of FY27. So we're essentially using a little less than half of the funds for the mowing and the herbicide treatment. In my opinion, it's work that needs to be done regardless of what fiscal year we're in, but of course I wanted the commission and LSC members who are here tonight to kind of chime in on that.
Just curious, what happens to the money that we had hoped to spend but haven't spent?
I think it just goes back to the town's general, I don't know. It goes back to them. It gets
General
absorbed.
fund? Does it go back to the general fund?
Yeah, to the towns, but not ours.
But is that money that could be potentially dispersed for us if we have an urgent need and need a little support from the general fund in the future?
Yeah, I'm sure. I think when something like that comes up, you can go to FinCom and then they can appropriate money to you if you need it. And then of course there's CPC funds, other ways to get money, but yeah.
Okay, thanks. Commissioners, comments?
Sounds like Megan did the best she could, and that's a lot we're cast with here.
Anybody have any reservations about spending the money in fiscal 27?
No, but I don't think we have a choice.
Right.
So it was a little unusual. It's always a bit of a scramble at the end of the fiscal year. And in the past, what's happened is we had a little bit of money left, say, and we hired a company to do clearing of the edges, for example, along the upper field at Foss Farm. And so we were always approved to use, maybe $4,000 or $5,000 to get that done. It made a huge difference in the visibility from the road into the field. And it was not one of those things we had normally planned to do. And it was done probably late in the summer sometime. So we were able to use, last year's money for this year for a project that wasn't even planned. But we did that around, say, about 4 different properties over the years. Just a different way of looking at things now.
Yeah, I was just told that that's just like not best practices for using the funds. And like additionally, because we rush, like if we're rushing every spring to get it done for the closing of that fiscal year, then we're kind of like caught in this cycle where we're doing the same thing every year where we're rushing to spend funds. So I think Kelly wanted us to get out of that like cycle of rushing at the end of every fiscal year. So now this way, if we use FY27 funds and we keep using them, scheduling it to happen at this time, then we'll actually be ahead of things instead of rushing to get it done right before the shot clock. So that's how I've been looking at it.
That all makes sense to me. That all is fine. I will say for the record, it's not best practice is kind of a meaningless comment to me. Like according to whom and why, and I don't like yeah. I mean, that's all fine, but I
Fair enough.
don't find that to be a compelling explanation of anything.
But yeah, I agree with you actually, Nick. But bottom line is, here's where we are. So,
Right.
with the once, burn twice smart, right? Or whatever it is. If we stay on top of it. Do we have comments from land stewards or other members of the public on this? We do. Alex? I hope I got the right order here.
Hello. Megan, you mentioned in your email to me about this that there was $18,000 available CPC funds, correct?
It's not CPC. They were appropriated at annual town meeting.
And are those unrestricted for the bog, or are they for specific purposes of bog?
Yeah, they're for bog maintenance specifically. There were two, I forget the exact years, but there were two separate asks at town meeting. So one of them was 16,500, which we haven't spent any of, and then there's 1,500, so it totals at 1,800. But they're both for cranberry bog maintenance, so it has to be used for the cranberry bog.
So it's warrant articles.
18,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And the 7,200 that was paid tonight comes from a different source?
Yes.
Okay, so the 18,000 is available in addition to the 23,000?
Yep.
I will comment, I don't think this was rushed at all. We worked on that proposal for the better part of 3 months. And so I don't really buy into that theory either, but as Melissa said, we are where we are. And thank you, Megan, for all your efforts.
Jonathan.
Yeah. So for the record, Jonathan McCock, 130 Oak Knoll Road, random member of the public. Hold no official position. So I agree with Megan's assessment that the work really needs to be done. What I worry about from you guys' perspective is this is a large chunk of money now out of your fiscal year 27 budget, and it doesn't include all of the work that was proposed because there was tree clearing, there was bog stuff which you didn't vote on yet. I am concerned that we're getting close to the fall to begin with, and you had scheduled for doing 2 mowings this year. It's almost to the point where it doesn't make sense to do 2 and just do 1. And that way you could use the funds for this fall's mowing and next spring's mowing. Otherwise, you're going to not have any funds left to do the spring mowing, which is something that you probably want to do or something that you should think about doing. So I'm worried because you didn't use the funds in fiscal year 26 that you're going to end up running out to be able to do what needs to be done in fiscal year 27. So just something to think about whether you want to do 2 mowings this year or adjust it to be one this year and one next year. That's it.
So on that note, Jonathan, the way that Ryan and I were setting up the contract for the mowing was just saying that the contract expired when did we say? By June 30th, 2027, in case the commission wanted to do one this year and one next year, or if they wanted to do two this year. But I mean, I think it might be good to discuss that now. But I wanted to set up the contract so that it was an option to do either or.
That's a great idea, Megan, and I really like that idea because I think, you know, there's pros and cons to doing it either way, right? Like, for example, Benfield is really covered in invasives, and you know, I would send Farmer Duffy out as soon as possible to get that taken care of. But others are not in such dire straits, and you might decide that you want to do one this year and one next year. So it might be a mix and match kind of situation where you go, let's deal with the worst issues immediately and then come back again. But the ones that are kind of not so terrible, let's do one mowing now and one mowing later, just so you have enough funds to pull off the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think Toll needs to. One now and one later in the fall.
Depending on the property, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I think Toll needs it and Benfield needs it.
Do we want to hear from land stewards about this? Do you have time for that? Or I don't know what your timing on your next meeting is, but we don't want to hold it up but love to hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, we can put it on our next agenda, but and I think that's next week, if I'm not mistaken. But maybe that's where the discussion ought to take place on the technical aspects of when the mowing gets done and which pieces of property get done. We can come back after that meeting with sort of our recommendations.
Sure.
Alex?
Yeah, I can put this on our next agenda to kind of be more decisive on what should be mowed and when. But would it be fair to say, like, if I have the contract signed by Mark Duffy early next week, that I could ask him to hit Toll and Benfield as starter sites? I mean, they're both pretty large, so
Yeah.
I think it would take some time, and then in the meantime, we can discuss if we want him to hit those twice, and decide Woodward and Foss also at the next meeting.
I think
Does
that sounds good. But what do you guys think?
I think that's the right thing to do. Should really get going on Benfield and Toll. And Chris, part of our agenda probably should also be discussing and prioritizing edge clearing as well as the rest of the mowing. Because you guys, Conscom, never voted on the edge clearing.
Yeah, that's because we didn't have enough funds to include that in the
Right.
fiscal 26. All right, we can get a jump on this. That will be great. Get it started, but also get a jump on the planning. Do we need a motion, Megan?
For this item, I would, just ask for a motion to use FY27 funds for these services.
Can I get a motion?
Don't
Tony,
Because
you're trying, but you're muted.
Can I make a
Well,
suggestion?
Nick just moved it, so I'll second it. How's that?
Good.
Sorry, Sylvia, go ahead.
I'll make a suggestion to not just use the FY27, but the warrant article funds that Megan was talking about.
CPC funds.
Well, they aren't CPC funds. They're warrant articles.
The warrant article funds are only for the Cranberry Bog.
Yeah.
And this work, none of the mowing is at the bog.
Right.
There's $900 worth of herbicide treatment at the bog, but I figure maybe we save the 18,000 for mowing of the bog because I think it's going to be a pricey expense. And we can get going on that soon as
Are
well.
you suggesting not having the herbicide being done at the bog?
I'm suggesting having it done, but just using the LSC budget instead of the cranberry bog budget, just because it's minimal. And I think mowing of the bog might be really expensive.
Yeah, okay. We're set.
Okay, so we had a warrant from,
We had a motion.
motion, I'm sorry, sorry. Oh, we had a motion from Tony and a second from Nick, or was it the other way around?
Other way around.
Motion from Nick, second from Tony. Roll call vote, Tony?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Sylvia?
Aye.
And Melissa votes aye as well. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. All right, our next agenda item tonight, item 8, is to discuss the cranberry bog and set a timeline for decision making. Megan, enlighten us, please.
Sure. I just put this on as kind of like a broad item. I wasn't expecting to go into major details tonight. But I think the last time we talked about the cranberry bog was, I think, before that presentation at the library by that geomorphologist. And I know that there were several commissioners in attendance for that. I was there, it was super informational. So I just wanted to make sure we don't keep kicking the can down the road and that we make sure we're still thinking about the cranberry bog because we need to figure out what we're going to do with it now that we just got that certificate of noncompliance for the Curve Street Dam. Still waiting on the inspection report for dam number 1. But so anyways, I just want to keep this on everyone's mind and maybe talk about some kind of timeline of when we see making some types of decisions for this. Again, just want to keep us on track here and not let this get forgotten about. So
I applaud that. I think my big question is, when is our H&H study coming back?
So H&H study is supposed to be done by the end of the summer, early fall, so say like September.
Well,
allegedly.
hopefully that'll give us some new insights. I don't know
Yes.
about you all, but my walks at the bog lately, the Martin Street Pond is empty. There's less than 1 gallon per minute flowing out of it. I mean, it wouldn't fill a horse bucket in 5 minutes. So there's no water there. It's growing grass. So pretty quiet. We'll see what the H&H study says. Chris has his hand up. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I was just I was over there today and like I said, I'd been away for 10 days and my read is that it's gone up. It's at least a pond again. Quite a bit from the boards when we first put them in. So I think it must have rained when I was away, I guess is what I'm saying. But to me, it was a drastic difference from the time I left to what I saw today when I was over there. So the water is going up on the Martin Street side a bit. So
okay. All right.
And
So
also, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna also mention, right now I'm in the midst of making some sort of like process tree, per Navneet's request about the cranberry bog, so showing what it looks like to keep all the dams, what it looks like to make them non-jurisdictional, what that process looks like, what it looks like if we take out the dams, what that whole process, and just very broadly setting up some kind of process tree so the commission has information to see what each process could look like, and then I can fill in more details as requested as we go. But that's kind of what I'm working on, so hoping to have that ready by the next meeting. And again, not to make any decisions, but just to keep this discussion going to eventually lead us, hopefully, to some kind of decision making. Yeah, I just don't want this to go stagnant.
So I agree, but one thing I'd love to know is, my sense is that the Office of Dam Safety has increasingly been involved in dam removals, Cranberry Bog restoration, and other things, and maybe they'd like to get out of the business of regulating little, 120-year-old agricultural berms where there's basically zero risk from a dam breach to anything downstream. And we've already proven there wasn't any risk because we had a dam breach in 2011. It flowed for a year and nothing happened. So I'm wondering whether it's possible for us to engage with the Office of Dam Safety and ask them, even though, the dam is 8 inches or something higher than the 6 feet that would let us dereg it, whether they'd be open to us, petitioning for a dereg. I mean, we've never really asked them.
That
yeah.
was done on the Kerr Street Dam.
No, I'm talking about the Martin Street Dam. Sorry about that. I'm talking about the Martin Street Dam. So that's the one, dam number 1. And we've never asked them whether they'd be happy to just say, yeah, it's your problem. And then
Yeah, so
we could have a town-wide discussion about what we want to do.
Yeah. So I asked them what the process was to deregulate the dam, and they sent me basically the application.
Yeah, there's a
But it needs
form.
to be, yeah, it's a form. It's pretty simple, but it needs to be submitted by was it an engineer? It wasn't something that I can just submit, which
Right.
is kind of
It has
unfortunate.
to
So
be
you have to
submitted by
hire
your
a
engineering
consultant.
firm. Yeah.
Yes,
But it could be
exactly.
submitted by our H&H study firm, which
Yeah, and I actually read through the H&H today because I thought I had read something. I knew they were coordinating with ODS in some manner, but it didn't say anything specifically about that. So I'm not sure
right.
if
But
that's
if the H&H study comes back and says, really, there's a beaver dam upstream and no water's coming to this dam anyway. And actually, from an impoundment perspective, it could be that we're not even at their limit. I'm just wondering whether the firm doing our H&H study might help us out by filling out that form for us.
Yeah, maybe so. Not a
One
bad
of the
idea.
reasons why there's not a whole lot of water there is that the Chelmsford is directing the water toward the, of course, Chris's pond.
Chelmsford doesn't
We've got a new
Yeah,
name for the pond, huh?
I
they
can
direct it? I'm sorry, I thought they just let the water out of their Hard Pond and it just flows where it's going to flow.
It goes into the pond that's just upstream from the bog, and they have their own little dam and flume that was put in about 2004 because that dam failed in about 2004 and emptied all the water into the front of where Chris lives. And it went right over the top of the Fifth Street Dike. And I was away on vacation, of course, when this happened. So that eventually got repaired. So there's been 2 dam failures, one in Chelmsford, and one the dam number 1.
Just to clarify, Sylvia, you're saying that the water's all going to the Fisk Street Pond
That's my
because
understanding.
Chelmsford is directing it there? I thought the reason
It has to.
Yes,
I thought the
I
reason
can
was the beaver
clarify.
dams are plugging up the flow from the Elm Street Pond to the Martin Street Pond.
They were asked to do that because our dam number 1 was having all these sinkholes and we were afraid it would sail. So they sent all the water over to the other side. We asked them to, right, Megan?
Yes, I
We
can
did?
clarify.
So
Yes.
what is the H&H study going to tell us then if it's an
So
artificial flow?
So the H&H study, as long as we tell them the date where we made changes, then they just add that to their model and it calibrates based on if I say, yeah, on October 13th, 2025, we removed a 6-inch board from Chelmsford Dam number 1. They put that into their model and it calibrates.
So it's not just the Beaver Dam. Oh, that's
Exactly.
news to
Yeah.
me.
So the Chelmsford Dam number 1, they took out a board there. I think it might have been in October. So yeah, there's more water now coming to the Fifth Street dike than would usually come there. But I do think that from what I've heard from other people that the beavers upstream are also probably affecting the water. It's probably a combination of things, but Sylvia is right that that is one of the reasons. And now that we have the upstream slope a bit more stabilized on dam number 1, I can ask Chelmsford to put the board back in if that's what the commission wants. Just to
So let me
return it.
understand. So when we were thinking about the engineering for dam number 1 and worrying that, did we need this big overflow just in case, huge rain, whatever, all along, we actually had another control mechanism upstream that would have gated the water that was going into the Martin Street Pond. All the engineering that Stamsky and McNary did, where they thought we needed this giant, weir with a boardwalk over it and all that, that was all predicated on, no upstream control. We could just ask Chelmsford politely to implement. I mean, wow, really?
My experience in talking with them in the past is that it is not easy for them to get in there and pull boards or replace them. It's not like having a cranberry farmer there. It's the DPW that they get to do that.
And yet they just did it when we asked them to.
Well, it was a special situation in that we had a failing dam, I think.
Huh.
And what we can do is decide to have a little meeting with the Chelmsford Conservation Commission and talk with them about it.
We could, but the other thing is we could just tell them, we ask them to just leave the board at one particular fixed position forever, which would change the amount of water that would ever get into the Martin Street Pond, right?
So about 4 or 5 years ago, we had a lot of water. And I was so worried about it. It was in January or February. I took a little walk up there when I could and found the water within 3 inches of going over the top of their little dam. So we do, there's more than us involved. So
right, but if the water overtops the board they put in, that doesn't harm anything.
Well, if they had an extra board in, then the water would have been higher.
Right, but they could put like a half-size board. My point is that the dynamics of water going into the Martin Street Pond are, not as obvious as we've been discussing in the past.
I think we need to have a little chat.
Okay. Well, anyway, but that's a separate conversation from Future of the Bog, right? Which is what Megan was raising in the light of the Gleason Library, I think it was June 6th presentation by Nick.
Yeah, but in the spirit of what Sylvia was saying, I actually have a meeting to schedule a joint meeting with Chelmsford Conservation Commission. There was several members at that library meeting from Chelmsford Conservation Commission. And even the H&H study that we're doing, we have flow devices in Chelmsford at Hart Pond, and I think maybe at this dam as well, where we're getting data. And so it does really feel like whatever effort is being made by us, we should probably coordinate with Chelmsford, whether it's immediate efforts with putting that board in to control our water levels or long-term efforts in terms of planning what we're going to do with the bog. So I think it would be a good idea to have a joint meeting just to acquaint ourselves and go over some immediate actions or long-term solutions, whatever it is. So if the commission is amenable to that, then I can reach out to them and see when they're available.
I certainly am amenable, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody else? What do you guys think?
Just so you know that when their dam failed, we're around 2004 or 5, and we were working with them on the fix. And we got a strong request from our select board to be in good contact with the Chelmsford Conscom. And so until COVID, we were meeting with them officially twice a year. Once in January, we would go up there, and then once in June, they would come down here. And that all ended with COVID. I think we had one via Zoom. But I just think it's really good to stay connected with them. And I did talk with one of them after the library meeting, and I've, had a couple of email correspondences with him since.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's great. Let's talk to him, of course. So thank you, Megan, for arranging that. Maybe we could do it in person.
That's what we were doing.
Ooh, that would be fun.
It'd be nice, I
Okay.
think.
Yeah, let's
But
do that.
Post it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes. And there's one thing I'd like just to raise. I don't know how many of us, and I know I'm guilty in this category, how many of us have read the voluminous reports from the Cranberry Bog Working Committee, the Cranberry Bog, CBAC, I think, right? There were major, big, very voluminous reports written about what to do as our farmer was non-renewing his cranberry farming lease due to the changing market conditions, the drop in the market for cranberries. Those baseline and, sort of, what to do with the cranberry bog in the future, those reports were really, they were a huge labor of love. I think it would be a good idea for us all to read those just to catch up on all the thinking that went into that. I just like to mention that the thoughts that the presenter, Nick, whose last name I'm forgetting, I'm sorry, at the Gleason Library, his presentation, his thoughts were one of the pathways that were laid out in this report. And the report is from a decade ago, a long time ago. So it's not as though his ideas are brand new. They were contemplated by the Cranberry Bog, group that looked at the future of the bog. So I think we should just all read that report. And I have some links to that. Megan, I know you can send links out to everybody.
Are you talking about the Cranberry Bog Working Group, or are you talking about the Cranberry Bog Alternatives Committee?
I think it's the big report was the CBAC, Cranberry Bog Alternatives Committee.
Yeah,
it's pretty big. It's very long. But there is an executive summary, and it went on into various uses of the bog.
Yeah,
but I think we should all be familiar with that before we have this, sort of the next conversation about the future of the bog, because we're not starting from scratch here. There's a lot of efforts going into this, and a lot of what they wrote was, prescient in terms of where bog restoration efforts have gone to. So,
well, I wanted to get back to looking at the minutes for the Cranberry Bog Working Group, because that was the most recent, and they are not up on the website. I don't know where they are.
Well, Megan, it would be great if you can make sure we have an inventory of.
I can circulate the reports.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then there was a survey done, I think, by the Cranberry Bog Working Group. And I don't know, Alex, if you were on that at the time the survey was done, but there was a survey And of course, every survey, it's some tiny percentage of townspeople that might have time or awareness to reply, but they talked about the values, things that they would like to sustain about the cranberry bog and things they cared about. But as we sort of engage in this, that's sort of maybe that sort of polling process would be useful. I don't know.
There was actually quite a lot of response to that, and Helen Young was the person that was sort of in charge of that, and
yeah,
it was filled out by not only townspeople but people from out of town that go to the bog.
Well, maybe we can all catch up on the history and what's been thought about it so far, just not necessarily to gate our thinking about it in the future, but just at least to inform us. And those were very, those efforts reflected tremendous amount of dedication, commitment, and effort from many people who are still here in town.
It looks like Alex has his hand raised.
Oh, go for it, Alex.
So, yeah, I think it's a good idea to go back and look at the CBAC reports. The Cranberry Bog Working Group, as I remember, was organized in large part to try to make a choice between the alternatives that were presented by the Alternatives Committee. My memory of time is so bad, but it seemed to me like we went back and forth for several years. We held a number of public meetings to get public input, lots of public discussions, and the consensus that emerged was essentially, at least in my interpretation, to maintain the status quo. That said, a lot of circumstances have really changed. One is this, concerted effort towards dam removal in the Commonwealth. The other is a concerted effort and funding to, restore cranberry bogs or disused cranberry bogs to, natural habitat. And those alternatives, the funding for those alternatives really just was not available when the Cranberry Bog Working Group was going through all of those alternatives. So, yeah, it sounds to me like you're embarking or potentially embarking on a path to reconsider all of those alternatives in light of the changed circumstances, which is probably a good thing to do. I'd just make one other quick comment on the discussion tonight, is that when the initial design for the repair of dam number 1 was considered, there was a great deal of concern for maintaining the pond behind dam number 1 as pond habitat. So that may be one of the circumstances that has changed simply by virtue of circumstances and not anything that we have done. So those are my comments.
Yeah, I think it's hard to gauge, right? We don't know what people think about that. But Jess, go ahead.
Just one of the reasons for that was decided to keep things as they were was the concept of keeping the bog what's called cranberry ready, in order to preserve our water rights.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's something to think about.
Sylvia, to preserve the water rights, does it have to be cranberries or could be some other kind of farming?
There isn't much other farming that would be allowed unless it's hay.
So it could be wet hay or it could be cranberries.
Apparently. I think that's one of the things that was looked in.
Do we know, since farming has lapsed, do we know for sure whether or not we still have farming water rights or could potentially invoke farming water rights?
That's something that needs to probably be looked into, but while the bog is cranberry ready, apparently we have the water rights and we have the water for the cranberry harvest until I think it's 2030-ish under the Massachusetts Water Management Act. We get a little form every fall. Megan signed it in the fall and it goes into DEP and that keeps us current with the Water Management Act.
What happens in 2030?
We get asked again, maybe it's 31. I can't remember exactly which is the 30, 31. I can't remember which one it is, but my understanding is that we will then get a new form to fill out to determine whether or not we still want to use the water for our water rights. And they always ask us if we put in new well points or sources for water and how many cranberries were harvested, and we don't have to we don't have to have any harvested. We just put in a 0 and send the form in and we're done. We're all preserved.
Yep, and that's actually part of my process tree is the water rights. So I'll be looking into that and providing more information on that as well.
We have deeded water rights through our, I believe, through the deed that we got from the Lowell Cranberry Company.
I think understanding the water rights is a pretty important aspect for us.
It's one of those things that, 50 years from now, when we're trying to find water, because we got too many people trying to get water, we want to make sure we didn't make the right decision.
As long as our understanding is correct, right?
Yeah, I'll get more information on that. I'll look through the files and look at the act and see what information I can provide you all.
Also, I'm unclear about, Sylvia, maybe you can enlighten me, is whether or not we keep dam number 1. I mean, many people love that pond, but whether or not we keep dam number 1, what impact does that have on our water rights? I'm not sure I understand why that particular berm would, be a factor in determining.
So that has the pond that's used to flood the bogs that are downstream from there for the harvesting and for maintenance. So and you take that out and that whole side of the bog is no longer what's called cranberry ready.
But the other side of the bog would still be cranberry ready. And it's the other side of the bog where all the harvests happened. I mean, in my
the water rights
memory
are in a certain number of gallons per day. And that has to do with how many acres of cranberry bog we have.
So if we lost half of the acreage, we'd lose half of our gallons per day.
I suspect that's how it works.
Well, it'd be great to confirm that one way or the other.
It makes sense.
Yeah, we should just find out how that functions.
One more thing for Megan to do.
But a fun research project, yeah?
Yeah, it'll be good to learn and know. I'll look into it.
Megan, did you want to, was there anything else on your agenda for this topic?
I don't believe so, no.
Is that enough?
All right, shall we move on? There's a little bit behind now. Item 9, discussing the wetland bylaw revision. Megan, do
Yes,
you want to
so
comment?
yeah, similarly, this hasn't been discussed in some months. I think like once the LSC charter had to be revised, we kind of dropped this out of sight, out of mind. So I just wanted to bring it back to the attention of the commission. We received feedback from town council, I think in January or so. So I just wanted to check in to see what steps the commission wanted me to take. Obviously not feasible for us to have this as a warrant for fall town meeting, but just wanted to check in to see if it's something we wanted to shoot for spring town meeting. I can look up some deadlines and see how we could fit into that. Just yeah, wanted to check in so we don't lose any momentum on this if the commission wants to keep pushing it forward.
Okay, enthusiasm, people.
I was gonna say it's not looking good.
I'm wondering
I
if
was-
we need a bigger group.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe maybe this is not true for a let's keep moving this forward type decision, but with three of us missing here, I'm wondering if we should just not to kick the can again, but I don't know if we're in a position to have a substantive discussion about it. And I know we don't always have everyone, but this is a particularly low attendance.
Yeah, I don't
Wouldn't
disagree. I
mind more
think
time.
yeah, just a good opportunity. I put it in the meeting packet this week, so if you haven't already reviewed town council's feedback, just take a look at that, and next time we discuss, then you will have read that.
I will say, in reading through the minutes, there was a comment about you working on what other towns are using for buffer zone protection. That's all in the material that Alex put together for the bylaw thing. So, I mean, I hate to, you got enough to do, so don't. It must be in the file under bylaw, wetland bylaw. And there was an original one, and then it was updated to include a town that was missing, I think.
Awesome. Thank you. That's super helpful.
So don't do it again.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And we presented the bylaw to both the Board of Health and to the Select Board. And it might be nice to have the feedback from those two boards available at some point.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Did they give us written feedback?
Board of Health did.
Yeah.
Or Sylvia, actually, I think you compiled all the feedback.
Okay.
I have that document. Yeah, you already did all the work. See, you don't have to do any more work either. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, I don't know, maybe like a year ago or so, you compiled feedback from Board of Health and Select Board in a document. I know I have it, so I can recirculate that again.
Okay.
Thank you.
There was so much work done on this. I would hate to see it fall asleep.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. All right, so we'll put that on the agenda for our next meeting.
Yeah.
All right, great. Item 10, fiscal 27 commencement. Tasks and reminders. Megan, you want to go ahead with that?
Yes, the first one was for the annual reorganization of the commission to vote to elect a chair and vice chair for FY27, but because we're missing 3 members, I think it's probably a good idea to push that to the next meeting.
Yeah, I think so too.
Or you can always do that fun thing where you nominate people that aren't here, but yeah, we should probably just continue it.
Yeah, I think we should postpone. What do you guys think?
That's a good idea. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I'll put that on the next agenda. And then the next item is to vote to authorize the conservation administrator to sign on the commission's behalf for FY27. This was something you all did when I first started, so I'm just putting it on as an annual vote.
COVID
Y'all
thing.
wanna-
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, Tony.
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Sylvia,
Aye.
and Melissa votes aye. Carries. All right.
Sure, yeah, thank you. And then the next item, just really informational, kind of a reminder as we begin the new fiscal year to review the open meeting law, conflict of interest in Carlisle Code of Conduct, which is a newer document that the select board just passed. I know there was a all boards training on Friday. I think some of you might have been able to attend. That went over some of this stuff.
Is there a recording?
Get into the open meeting law, though.
Is there a recording, Megan, that you can send others a link to?
Yeah, I can definitely ask.
Great. And then I went to one in March, so I guess they're happening, what, every 6 months or something? Or
Yeah, it seems like that. Yep.
This was
the one I
very,
went to in March was very good.
this one was very different.
Oh, it was? So maybe I definitely need the link then, because I figured it would be redundant. I guess not. All right.
Okay, well, I can see if there's a recording and send that around.
Thank you.
And then the last thing is to just again, informational, but just go over the commission's budget that we have. Just show everything. Yeah, we don't have to go into details here, but this is in the meeting packet. It just shows our budget for the fiscal year. So the repair and maintenance line item is the LSC budget right here. Just thought it was good for everyone to see as we start the fiscal year. And that's really it. I'll stop sharing this because
So just a
not sure.
minute,
Yeah.
just, I'm looking at the second item from the top,
Yes.
$10,000 for the conscom admin.
Yes, that's a supplement. So Noel gets paid from the planning board's
Okay.
budget, and then we just supplement.
Please supplement it. What about Judy and Sarah?
So Judy isn't working for us anymore.
Okay, all right.
Unfortunately, she decided to retire.
No, she's been trying to do that. So
Yeah.
don't
And
take
then
credit.
yeah, Sarah gets paid out of the select or the town administrator's budget, like the select board. So
Interesting.
yeah, so we have, lucky enough to have shared staff where salary isn't coming out of our budget completely. So very, very fortunate for that. But yeah, Sarah gets paid out of the town administrator's budget, and then Noel mostly out of planning, and then supplemented by us.
So the 10,000 essentially goes to Noel?
Yes. Yeah, so Noel splits her hours in half with planning and conservation, but planning ends up paying for more of it, which that was decided before I got here, so I'm not sure why, but I'm okay with it.
No need to ask. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, that's that. Those were really just informational.
All right, item 11, an update on water chestnut removal efforts at Greeno Pond. DEP file 1251197. Jonathan?
Yes. So for the record again, Jonathan DeCock, 130 Oak Knoll Road, no official position. So I sent you guys a report. It's about 1 page long with some photos after it. We are doing really fabulous on the upper pond and the middle pond. The work that we did last year in those two ponds has substantially reduced the amount of water chestnut in those two portions of the pond, to the point where we only pulled half a bushel total of the water chestnut out of those two ponds.
Wow.
So that's really fabulous. I think we've gotten ahead of it there. Now, for the bad news, the rain happened and allowed me to get to more parts of the lower pond. And I sent you this report on Monday thinking that this would be all the information that I had to give. And then Tuesday morning, I went out and found 2 acres of water chestnut. Almost, it's not entirely water chestnut, but it's like half water chestnut in the lower pond. And so there's a substantial amount of it. There's so much of it that I've already pulled 18 bushels. And I'm calling in reinforcements. I'm asking the Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, and Girl Scouts to come out and help. And so they're looking into seeing if they can do it. One of the difficulties is even though the water level is up 6 inches, it is extremely shallow to get in and out of there. So you can get in and then you fill your boat with water chestnut and then you're too heavy to get back out. And so you end up grounding out as you're trying to escape the low water levels. If you're very skilled at it, you can follow the paths that the beavers have made. And then there's enough water to actually get in and out, but it's tight. So I am concerned that there is so much water chestnut here that it has exceeded the ability of the volunteers. I will do everything I can this summer to get as many volunteers out there to take care of it. But we're talking probably on the order of hundreds of bushels. I am going to probably end up pulling in the additional compost cubes that the Boy Scouts made for this project and place them near where the barn used to be, where the current one is, in order to be able to hold all of it. So we only have a couple of weeks before the water chestnuts nuts start to be viable for next year. To be able to do that, once they become viable, then we have to switch techniques, and we pull a plant and very gently turn it upside down so that the water chestnuts that are growing underneath it don't fall off. And then you snap off the stem and do it. So it's a different technique. It's not necessarily more or less work, but once we get to August, it's different. So I do have a few requests for the commission. One is if we could raise the water level a little bit more. I raised it 6 inches. This is only in the lower pond. It doesn't affect the upper pond, as we talked about last time, as a result of the beaver dam. But if we could put in some more boards so that next time we get some rain, the water level goes up, then that would keep me from grounding out as we try to get in and out of this section of the bog. So that would be very nice. That's especially true. There's been some discussion that you'll probably hear about in your next meeting, but it may happen even before then that Megan may get asked for an emergency breaching of the beaver dam. And I would like to take the water that comes from an emergency breach and use it to raise the lower pond rather than just let it fall into the Concord River. And so if we could put in some additional boards, that would be really great. However, raising the water level a little bit more, I then become more concerned. I mentioned this to you last time. There is an emergency spillway, but the emergency spillway is covered in debris. So I would also like permission to remove the debris from in front of the emergency spillway so that in the event of a large rain event, we have a place for the water to escape from the lower pond, independent of anything else.
In the past, DPW has managed that.
I know, but there's debris there now, and I don't necessarily want to add to Jim Hall's workload. It's a small effort. So if I or the land stewards can just have permission to do it, then that would be great. I don't know if we need permission, but I didn't want to just go and start cleaning stuff up without somebody saying it's okay. So, and then one more thing is because it's so hard to get in and out of, I am wondering if you guys would be okay with me storing one or more canoes in a place where we don't have to travel in and out. There's a way for us to move the water chestnut on the trails in and out, but moving a canoe on the trails is extremely difficult. With the trails twist and turn, and a 16-foot long canoe does not twist and turn like that. And so I did it today, but I end up with both me and the canoe walking through the poison ivy on the edge of the trail, which is not great for either me or the canoe. So if we could, I can lock them up and hide them, so that they're not going to be things that wander off or things that other people use. But if we could have a couple canoes stored there for a couple of weeks, that would be really great. And then lastly, I do think it's going to be an interesting thing for you guys to see, both the Beaver Dam and the Water Chestnut. And so if you guys would like, I am happy to provide tours to the Beaver Dam and or out in a canoe to see the Water Chestnut, so that you can kind of experience what this morass is. So if anybody would like to take me up on that, just let me know, or if you want to do it as a group, let me know when you'd like to do it, and I will make it happen. That's it.
So you planning to enter the pond near where the barn was?
Yes.
Going through the gate and.
Yeah, we're going through the gate right now, and we enter the pond from the dam. And to this particular section that's problematic is in the portion of the bay as it approaches Billerica. So it's not in the Billerica side, it's still in the Carlisle side, but it's in that portion of the bay. And to get there, you have to go almost all the way up to the Beaver Dam. So it's like a quarter mile across the pond, and then make a hard right turn and go about a quarter mile into the bay in order to get there.
Is it anywhere near the boardwalk that goes over that tongue of the pond?
It's in that bay, but it's a long way from the boardwalk still. There's quite a few cattails that are growing up, and there's not any water chestnut growing in the cattails. It was too shallow for the water chestnut to grow there in the past. So
Too shallow for the water chestnut? That's interesting.
yeah, well, I mean, it was basically dry land for the past couple of years.
Oh, okay.
And so there is I believe it's cattails that are growing there. So, and they grow in mud, they do grow in water, but not very deep
Right.
water.
Jonathan, to avoid capsizing your canoe, do you ever tow something behind? Like, you can dump the harvest in like a big inner tube with a mesh, with some sort of a mesh bag in the bottom of it, or mesh, trampoline sort of thing. So you don't have to put all the, these big soggy wet water chestnuts in your canoe.
Yes, I have done that. It's a very interesting mechanism. However, it only works if there's no other vegetation that grabs onto the thing you're towing.
Right.
And so the bog or the pond is full of water lilies and other native plants. And so there's, anything that goes down in the water at all ends up being problematic. However, I do also use a second boat, because then you put your weight in one boat and the water chestnut weight in a second boat. And that is effective as long as the rope is fairly short. If the rope connecting you to the other boat is too long, then you can't get your other boat to guide through the narrow passages that you're trying to get in and out on.
Jonathan, thank you for doing this. It sounds like a lot of work.
It is. So if any of you guys would like to join, it is surprisingly therapeutic. Like, you can't imagine how much fun it is to weed a pond until you get out there and you're actually going, I'm just doing good work, pulling these weeds. Nobody wants these weeds, and the world's a better place because I got rid of them. And so it's actually surprisingly fun, and especially in the current political situation where things are always a disaster, it like lets your mind escape all that, and it's like, it's like therapy. It really is. So
I know that feeling from Oriental Bittersweet, so I believe you.
yes, believe it or not, it's even more fun than doing land-based invasives. So
They come up easier than bittersweet?
oh, it's trivially easy. Like you look at these plants and they jump out of the sediment at you. It's really easy to pull them out. The major issue is when it gets too thick with water lilies, then they entangle around the water lilies, and you're trying not to pull the water lilies. Not necessarily because you want to save the water lilies, just you don't want the added weight of water lilies in your boat.
Yeah.
So So
Thank you
what
for
do you
giving
guys
us-
need to vote on any of the things I suggested, or are you guys generally okay with
don't
with
know.
me adding in more boards and storing canoes there and cleaning up the debris?
Megan, do we need to vote on anything?
I think if you authorize him to put in a board, you should vote on that, but I have a question first. So forgive me if you've already told me this 5 times, but the area where you came across the dense water chestnut, is that the area in the pond you weren't able to access last year because it was too shallow?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. So raising the water level would let you access that to remove it instead of leaving it behind again.
So by raising the water level 6 inches as we have, I can now get in to access it. It's just extremely difficult. And so raising up the water level a little bit higher would make it easier to get in and out. Like it would give me more passages to get in and out.
And raising it that high, the water level would still be under the beaver dam. So the beaver dam would still be in place. So upstream of the beaver dam, there'd be no effect because the beaver dam is still maintaining that water level.
Correct. So as we measured before the water came up, there was 31 inches on the beaver dam. When the water came up, we're at about 28 inches, 29 inches of difference between the upper pond and the lower pond. So raising it another 4 to 6 inches would mean instead of being 28 inches, it's 24 inches. And so, yeah, there's a huge difference still between the upper pond and the lower pond.
Okay.
This would still easily accommodate all the water draining out of the lower pond into this pond without trouble.
Have you seen any change in the water level on that board by the Maple Street Bridge?
Yes. So that's a separate topic, but we did get quite a bit of rain last week, and the water level did rise in the upper pond by about 3 inches. It went up from about 2'10" to about 3'1". I just checked it before this meeting, and it's back down to 2'11". So it's receding in the upper pond again.
That's turned out to be a handy board.
It is a wonderful thing, and I'm going to recommend that we do more of those. So.
Made in my basement.
Yeah. So,
can
but
I get
it's just fabulous because it allows everyone to communicate with a common set of numerical values. So rather than saying the water level is up to my, tree 3 feet from my house, you have something that, everybody can look at and agree the water level is in fact 3'1" right? Whatever that number means is kind of immaterial, but it's like you have a number that you can put on it. So it's fabulous.
It was put in at exactly 2 feet.
Yes.
So I think, can I get a motion to allow Jonathan to add a board as necessary, boards as necessary to raise the level of the pond so that he can harvest water chestnuts and save us from this impending disaster.
Can we add to that clearing the emergency flume?
Yes, and clearing the emergency flume. Thank you.
And storing canoes.
And storing canoes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Storing canoes. Yes, all of those. Anything else? What else did I miss?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
Thank you. Okay, roll call vote. Tony,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Sylvia,
Aye.
and Melissa votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if you guys
Thank
want me
you
to give
very
you a
much.
tour, just yell. You know where to find me.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, item 12. Vote to
Almost.
approve the minutes from 6/25/26.
I don't think we can do this because
yeah.
we don't have enough people. So I'll put it on the next agenda.
Thank you. All right, item 13, liaison. This is our last item, guys. Item 13, liaison updates. First one is CPC.
Yes, actually, for this one, Sylvia and I were informed that we had to appoint a CPC liaison for FY27. So I'm hoping Sylvia is still willing to hold her role as CPC liaison.
I hope so too.
And
I
maybe
also
the
hope that.
commission.
Is Sylvia willing? That's the question.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Oh, good. So, motion to appoint Sylvia as our CPC liaison. Someone?
So moved.
Thank you, Nick. Second?
Aye. Second.
Thank you, Sylvia. Okay, roll call vote. Tony? Tony?
That was an aye.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Nick?
Also aye.
Sylvia?
Aye.
Melissa votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Sylvia. Appreciate it. Okay, crack. We
Well,
don't.
they're as for an update, they've organized 2 meetings. CPC has to open their period where they will accept applications for CPC money for the fall town meeting. And there's one on the 27th of this month, and then the 17th of August. If anyone's
15th of August.
6:30 in the afternoon, evening.
I thought, Megan, didn't you send something that said something about the 15th of August for that?
Yeah, I think that might have been the deadline to submit an application, maybe.
Yeah, right, that would be it. But then there'll be meetings afterwards to discuss any applications. We don't know if they're going to get any, but they've got this period of time when, yeah.
So have we contemplated any submissions to CPC for this fiscal year?
Not
There'll be
that I know.
opportunities in the Springtown meeting too, so it's a bit of a hustle at this point to try to submit an application for money.
Can CPC funds be used for, no, I guess not. I don't know, for things like water chestnut removal? No. Right.
I don't know.
Okay, anything else, Sylvia, about CPC?
Not for CPC.
All right, how about crack?
RAC, they have not met. And I was in back and forth with the chair in the last couple of days just to let him know I got sworn in. And he thought there might be a meeting next week at some point, but it hadn't been set yet. I do have one other thing. In the spring, you suggested I be liaison to Land Stewardship Committee. You still want me to do that? Because we're in another fiscal year.
Sure. What do others think?
I don't know, maybe the land stewards would rather have somebody else.
It's our decision.
Yeah, it's our
To be
decision.
bold.
I completely agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, so, okay, so motion to appoint Sylvia as our LSC liaison, since that's going to come up.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call. Tony,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Sylvia,
Hi.
Melissa votes aye. Carries.
Yeah, typically we would have these all lined up for the start of the fiscal year and do it all at the same time, but for various reasons, the appointments were kind of staggered.
You were.
But now we'll be lined up for next year.
Now we'll be lined up. All right. Sylvia, if nothing else on CPC or crack? No?
No, I did go to the site visit down at Foss Farm today, just so you know.
Oh, good. I was hoping to go, but had somebody doing tree work.
I do have a suggestion for the next agenda.
All right, talk to Megan about that, and we'll put it on. So DPW Building Committee, that's me. Quick update. As you all heard once before, we selected HKA as our design firm, and Ryan is in the middle of negotiating that contract. There is a site visit to one of HKA's DPW projects, completed projects. That's the Hudson, Massachusetts DPW building and that is on July 27th at 9 a.m. And those of us who are going are happy to take extra passengers. So if you want to drive with us, drive by yourself, go one way or the other, everybody would be, I'm sure, very welcome. I'm going to go, of course, because I'm on the committee. And we'll get to see what a modern DPW building looks like and hear about some of the best practices in building design, which I won't bore you with tonight, but with, many of which we heard HKA describe in the selection while we were going through the selection process. Any questions about that? No?
I did have one other thing that I wanted to bring up.
Oh, please.
I read in the newspaper. Well, first of all, when a property is in Chapter 61A, agriculture, maybe even 61B, the town has the right of first refusal if it's going to be sold and used for a purpose other than agriculture. When in the past, whenever that has happened, so the town has the right of first refusal on this, the Conservation Commission has always been asked if there is an interest in the town acquiring this piece of land, okay? I read in the paper that this happened, that there was a property that came out of 61 and the select board has made the decision that it wouldn't be something that the town would want to buy. Now, this particular piece of land, I happen to agree, but I'm not aware that the Conservation Commission was asked to weigh in on the decision about the town acquiring this piece of land. And we always have been. There's dozens of lands around here that the commission was asked if they wanted to acquire it. We went out and looked at it and looked it over and decided no. So, or in some cases, yes, but perhaps a little reminder in the future, if a piece of land is coming out of 61, that the Conscom be provided an opportunity to weigh in, to take a look at it.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Sounds like a good idea. I think Megan has a direct line to those people.
Yeah, I think that was a ball drop by me. There was an email that George and I were on, but I think I just dropped the ball on it by not putting it on an agenda. But lesson learned for future.
Okie doke.
I can assure you there are plenty of projects that have gone in after we've said, no, we don't want this for some reason, but,
I know that specific property. Yeah, I'm familiar with the permits associated for that property, but still, to your point, the commission should have a chance to voice their opinions about it. So thank you for that.
I didn't realize it had gone anywhere, but it's
all right, mes amis. Here we are, 10 of 10. It's time for our last item, which is adjournment. Our next meeting is scheduled for August 6th. So, can I have a motion to adjourn our meeting, please?
Don't we have a discussion about that first?
No, I've already moved.
You've already moved. Your
Moved.
second?
Yeah.
Tony seconded, right?
Yep.
Okay, Tony. So you vote.
Aye. Adjourn.
Nick. Sylvia.
Aye.
Come on, Sylvia.
Aye.
And I vote aye too, Melissa. Thank you all so much.
I have actually seen a motion to adjourn be voted down, and I was a naysayer. Yeah.
Wow.
Lee adjourned a meeting, I would say, somewhat aggressively, and there was still someone who was on the agenda and hadn't gone yet, and there was some discussion, and the motion to adjourn was.
Oh wow.
Well, that's a good cause. Anyway.
Acting at once.
So that town government at work thriving. Yeah.
Not this time though. Good night, all.
Good
night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice weekend. Hope for rain.